Hello, my name is Michael David Modis. When you think of jobs for college students, you think of jobs like fast food or working in retail. However, the person I have interviewed had a very unusual job in college. So join me as I present someone who had an unlikely yet very exciting part-time job as a bus party host. So today I'm with my dad, Michael Rene Modis, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Will that be okay?
I'm ready.
Okay. What was the most unusual job you ever had?
Probably the most unusual job I ever had was when I was in my early 20s. I was working on the island at a local club, and they actually gave me the job of come on guy.
And what would a come on guy do?
Well, a come on guy was actually assigned to a Trailways bus, and our job was to get people to come on the bus, and we would pick them up all over the road in the main drag there on the island and take them to the club.
Oh, well, that's very interesting. How did you get into this job?
Well, I was working as a bouncer at this club, and they kind of knew me as kind of a fun type of guy, kind of an outspoken and not shy at all kind of fella. So they figured I'd be the right person with the right kind of personality for this gig. There was no preliminaries, no warm-ups, and no guidance whatsoever.
Well, that's very interesting. Can you tell me what are the most interesting things that happened at this job?
Well, I can tell you that spring breakers by themselves, by their nature, are kind of unscripted, and strange things happen every day on the buses. But usually they had to do with team rivalries, and you would have guys trying to outdo each other in many funny ways. We would get people on the bus, and became a big party on the bus in and of itself. Even before they got to the club, there was lots of partying happening on this bus, and it was always a very fun time, and it was always, the rivalries were fantastic. So the kids had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing the job. It was great.
All right. What was one of your favorite things to do when you were doing this job?
What I really liked to do was I got to lean out the door at 20 miles an hour. The door is wide open in these buses, and I hung out there with a bullhorn, kind of summoning these school kids with their fight song, which I had on a bullhorn, So I would play their fight song, and they'd get all hey, whatever, we recognize our fight song. And I'd tell them, get in the bus, we're going to take you to the club. And they would jump on in, and we would start like little mini games and things like that. We had competitions of our own. It was a big joy. It was a lot of fun. It was crazy days.
So, how well were you paid at this job?
Well, actually, back in those days, which was the early 90s, it wasn't bad pay at all. It was about $10 an hour, which is, back then, as I said, very good for what I did. They could have paid us minimum wage, which was something like $4.75 or something crazy like that. So we did a lot better than that.
How were the hours?
The hours were a little bit crazy, and only a young single guy could do that kind of job. Or lady, for that matter, these days. But back then, we'd show up to work about 9 o'clock, and we'd get out probably about 3 o'clock.
All right. Were you ever afraid of things going out of control, or did things ever go out of control while you were working there?
That's a very good question. Actually, things never went out of control. However, when things would get a little hairy, I would take control of things by throwing freebies at them and distracting them. If you had one team, for instance, that was filling half the bus and a rival team on the other half of the bus could end up shaking back and forth with all the movement and people chanting and going crazy and partying. And, you throw some beads or t-shirt out there or some coupons, and everybody just kind of falls into line. And it really, the spirit of the thing was about fun and partying. Nobody was out there to get too rowdy or physical or do anything that was going to break the law, not on the buses. And the kids were pretty well behaved up until later in the night back at the club if they drank too much, but that's a different story altogether.
Well, thank you very much for your time. This has been a very interesting experience.
You're welcome, Mike. Good luck with this.
Thank you. The interview with Mr. Modis has presented an amazing opportunity for college students to pursue. After all, why spend time flipping burgers in a hot, crowded kitchen, or continue working where your presence is barely tolerated? If you're blessed with the grand gift of gab, Why not try your hand at a job where your presence is valued and your splendid social skills are used to the fullest? So before you go apply to a humdrum job, why not consider taking a chance and get a job you can tell your grandkids about? This is Michael David Modis, encouraging you all to have a great day.